Hey friend, now before we dive in, I want to pop in with a quick note because this week we are re-airing one of our most popular episodes here on Modern Homemaker Mom. Now as we head into the holidays, when spending tends to creep up on us and those budgets can feel a little bit tighter this time of year, I thought this would be the perfect time to revisit this conversation. Now, today's conversation is all about how our family has learned to make it work on one income, just living on one income, and those simple shifts that have really helped us to save money without feeling like we are totally cutting out all of the joy in our home. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Modern Homemaker Mom podcast. I'm your host, Jynae Schmidt. If you found yourself here, it means that you're ready to break free from overwhelm, create a peaceful, well-run home, and finally live with more structure, margin, and stability. Here you'll find practical rhythms, real-life systems, and faith-filled encouragement you need to simplify your home and reclaim your time so that you can show up fully for the life God is calling you to. Let's get started. Okay, so let's get into today's episode with a story. I remember when my husband and I first made the decision to live on one income. When we were first married, we were both working full-time, but we had decided early on that when we decided to start a family, I would prioritize the home and taking care of our children as my number one priority, and I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, so that's just something we discussed early on. That being said, we actually went semi one income about a year before we went fully to one income because I decided to step back from my full-time job and embrace this online business idea that I had, which was selling homemade soap and candles that I did at home. And while I did make a lot of sales and I had so much fun with it, it just something that was a fun little hobby for me, it turned into a lot of work, and I didn't want making soap and candles to be something I dreaded. I always wanted it to be something that I really enjoyed. So as I was in my third trimester and we were getting really close to welcoming our little girl into the world, we decided that I would stop with that online business, at least for a time, until I decided if it was something I wanted to pick up again. And that's when we took the plunge to go onto one income. Now, my husband is a heavy-duty equipment operator, and we're really blessed because a lot of women, when they live on one income, their husband has to take a job where they're maybe working up north or they're not really home every night because, it just is part of the job. If you want to make more money, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. But we have been incredibly fortunate, and my husband's job is only 40 minutes away from our house, and he is able to be home every single night. Yes, he works long hours. Sometimes he's working 6 days a week. But there's always going to be a sacrifice no matter what decision you make. And for us, that is just that he's having to work a little bit longer. But like I said, we're super grateful that he doesn't have to work away and he's able to still come home and see me in Oakland every single night. Now, when we first made the decision to go to one income, it was both very exciting and terrifying at the same time. On one hand, I absolutely loved the idea of having a more intentionally family-focused lifestyle. I loved the idea of being a homemaker full-time. But on the other hand, of course, there were so many fears, like, would we have enough every month? Would we still be able to do the things that we loved? We like to go on a date night or two once a month. Would we always feel stretched thin and just have that stress hanging over us? But here's what I learned in this whole process is living on one income isn't about being deprived, it's about being intentional. At the end of the day, you and your husband are ultimately making that decision where the money that's coming in is being spent. And so it's not always about making or bringing in the biggest paycheck. Rather, it's more about making smart choices with the income and the finances that you do have, that you can work with. And so over time, my husband and I have found super simple, but yet they're also very effective ways that we've been able to save a little bit of money every single month without feeling like we're constantly missing out, because really we're not. And I want to share those tips with you today. So if you're in a season where money feels tight, or you're thinking about transitioning yourself into a single income because you want to prioritize your home and truly embrace your role like that, I hope that these tips I'm about to share with you will show that thriving on one income is absolutely possible even in today's age. Okay, so get out a paper and pen or open up the notes app in your phone while you're listening to me because you're going to want to take notes here. Tip number 1 I have is buy secondhand whenever possible. In our home, most of our furniture, the decorations, even household items have been thrifted or we've purchased them through Facebook Marketplace. There's no shame in buying secondhand. It has saved us personally so much money, and yet it still has allowed me to create this very cozy and well-decorated home. If you came into my home today and you sat down with me and we had tea together, you would not think that all of the items in my home were necessarily secondhand or thrifted. Sometimes people put this negative label on the fact that you didn't buy something brand new, but I really think that it's just a little mindset shift that we have to make, is you can make things beautiful. You can create this beautiful, peaceful home, even with things that you bought at a secondhand store or you thrifted at a lower price. And of course, you can't just go to a thrift store and expect that you're going to find everything you need necessarily in one afternoon to fully decorate your living room, for example. Patience here is the key. We wait for good deals instead of buying all of our furniture brand new. It actually took us months last year, months and months and months, scanning Facebook Marketplace, waiting for a good deal for a couch. We wanted a bigger sectional for our living room, and it took us months before one finally came up. But when it finally did come up, we were like, wow, this is a God thing, because this couch was so much cheaper than what we even budgeted for. And it also gave us months to save for that couch. So when the couch finally showed up on Facebook Marketplace, we were like, this is the perfect couch for our living room. We had already been able to save over the months and set that money aside, and we didn't break our backs spending so much on something brand new, and it fits our living room perfectly. Okay, the second tip I have for you on how you're going to save more money and live on one income is meal plan and grocery shop intentionally. Every single week, my husband and I meal plan and make a grocery list at the same time. We usually do it on a Sunday afternoon when we're just sitting down and having coffee, or maybe in the morning when we're just getting going for the day. We'll plan out our meals for the week ahead. Sometimes we'll even plan 2 weeks ahead. And let me tell you, having a meal plan for every single week is so blissful. It makes my heart sing. I wake up in the morning and I don't have to stress about what on earth am I going to make for supper. I just reference the the meal plan that we made on Sunday that week. And I look and I'm like, okay, I got to take out chicken thighs tonight so I can make roasted chicken thighs with veggies. And the decision's already made, and it honestly takes so much stress away from me. Then as far as our grocery list goes, we have a shared note. If you have an iPhone, you can do this. You can share a note with someone so they both can contribute. And I break it down based on the store that we're getting our groceries from. And then there's an option where you can have a checklist. And when you write down things, you can check or uncheck the box right beside it. And so, for example, if we need to go to Costco, we go shopping probably once every 2 weeks. I'll have Costco bolded, and then underneath Costco, I'll have a checklist of all the items we need from Costco. And so in our household, because my husband's already in town and we kind of live out of town about 30 minutes, it makes the most sense for him to just run and grab groceries after work most of the time. So he'll just open up his phone. He's got the grocery list wherever he needs it. He can reference a list as he's going through Costco and putting things in the cart. He can literally click the checkbox on his screen and mark things as he adds them to the cart so that he's not forgetting anything. And I think that grocery shopping and meal planning in general just really keeps you from impulse buying and eating out too often, which can really save a lot of money over time. Think about it, like how much does it cost you to go and eat out with your family? It's like at least $50 Canadian for me. I'm in Canada. I'm not sure what it's like in the States. Probably cheaper. I find everything in the States is cheaper, but it just really adds up. And when we realize how much we're spending on eating out, you'll very quickly want to start planning your meals at home because it just saves so much more. Just investing in a little bit of planning each week for your meal planning and your grocery shopping makes things way more efficient and budget friendly. Real quick, can I say something that might hit close to home? If homemaking feels harder than it should, like you're constantly behind, constantly resetting, it's not you. It's the lack of method that actually fits your season of life. Which is why I created my signature offer, Modern Homemaker Method, and right now I'm rebuilding it. Not because it wasn't working before, but because it's time to teach the secret frameworks that I have trusted myself for years. The ones that have carried me through every season of life. Busy, slow, pregnancy, postpartum, interrupted, and still hold. Yes, I teach decluttering and cleaning, but this goes beyond surface tips. This course is a full roadmap for building a peaceful, life-giving home built around rhythms that honor your energy, your capacity, and your actual life. This course is closed right now while I finish these powerful upgrades, but if you're on the VIP waitlist, you're going to get early access to the course, VIP-only bonuses that the public will not get access to, as well as sneak peeks as I build this next chapter with you in mind. If you're ready for a method that finally works, you can become one of my VIPs by going to jynaeschmid.com/waitlist or tap the link below in the show notes. Remember, this isn't just another course, it's the framework you've been missing, and I can tell you it's going to change your life because that's what it did for me. Now, back to the episode. The third thing that my husband and I do together each month to save is we budget and track every single dollar. We actually use an app called Every Dollar to track our income and expenses. And I'm being serious when I say we track even the small transactions like, $1 here, $3 transaction there. Like it all goes through this budget tracker. I know budgeting sounds restrictive, but it doesn't have to be that way. It really just means that you're being aware of where your money is being spent. My husband and I started budgeting this way when we first got married because that's when we combined our income. And it was so eye-opening. Oh my goodness. I had never budgeted in my life before this. My husband had actually spent a lot of time before he met me really learning about finances from Dave Ramsey specifically. And he just brought this to our marriage and he was like, we need to start budgeting. We need to track our income. We need to track our expenses. We need to know where the money is being spent so we can be more mindful of our spending habits. And it was, like I said, it was just so eye-opening for me. And it was very, very humbling because in those first few months, we did not realize that we were not saving a cent. We were overspending every single month because we were spending so carelessly. And so once we started budgeting and tracking and really allocating and being intentional of where money was allowed to go every single month, it made us actually fully aware of where our money was going. And we actually started to save because we prioritized it then. Now, of course, we don't follow this perfectly all the time, but in general, it definitely has helped us stay on track and avoid overspending. Okay, before I continue, can I ask a quick favor of you? If you've been enjoying this podcast and find value in these episodes, would you take a very quick minute to go ahead and leave me a review? Your review helps more women just like you find this podcast. It helps my show to grow, and it really just means the whole world to me. If you're loving what you hear, hit that 5-star rating and leave a short review. I appreciate it so much. All right, the fourth thing that my husband and I do each month to save money is we DIY what we can instead of paying for services. Jeremy, my husband, takes care of our car maintenance, so he'll do the oil change, he'll do the brake replacements and small home repairs on his own. If he doesn't know how to do something, he will sit down and watch a video and learn how to do it instead of hiring out. This has alone saved us hundreds, if not thousands of dollars over time. And of course, there's naturally going to be things that are out of his reach that he just can't do. But he has been very determined to try to do as much as he can because it just truly does save us so much. Okay, the fifth tip I have is we live with a less is more mindset. We are constantly in this world being sold to, but what I've learned is that it's so important to pause before going to buy something. Something that I like to ask myself before I purchase something is I'll just hold it in front of me and I'll ask myself, do I really need this? Because it's so easy to go into a store. We all have those stores that are our weak points. And we might find something on a shelf and it's like, oh, this would be perfect in my bedroom, or this would be perfect in the kitchen. It would save me time. But I'll find myself having to pause and be like, Jynae, do I really need this? Do I have the space for this in the first place? Can I wait overnight and let's just sit on it and think on it? I have found asking myself these questions honestly often leads to me putting that item back on the shelf. And I think it's just a mindset shift of, do I really need this? The less is more thing. Living in a small home personally for us has really helped us to be more intentional about what we bring in because we don't have an endless amount of space. And I mean, the benefit of having that less is more mindset, bringing less into your home, is we save money not purchasing the things that we really don't need, and we have less clutter to work around with. So it's kind of a win-win here. Okay, my final tip for you today, tip number 6, is we tithe 10% of our income. And I know that doesn't really sound like a savings tip because technically you're giving away 10% of what you make, but there's a story behind this. So I first of all just wanted to say I'm not sharing this to boast because I know that the Bible says, do not let your right hand know what the left hand does. But because this personally has been a huge part of my husband and I's financial journey, I wanted to talk about it here today. So the Bible says to set aside 10% for God from everything that you make. And Jeremy and I truly believe that what we have, the money that we bring in is not actually ours to begin with. There have been times where maybe my husband was worried about having enough work. He was like, oh man, I don't know if we're going to have work over the next 2 weeks. And because he's like, we're living on just his income and he's the sole provider of our household, it can be very stressful. But then out of nowhere, this unexpected opportunity would come up for him, and then work would just come out of what would seem like thin air. And so we've seen firsthand how God has provided for us when we truly trust him with our finances. So maybe you're wondering like, okay, great, but like how does tithing and giving away 10% of your income have anything to do with that? Well, for us, tithing isn't about giving away money necessarily. It's about trusting that God is going to take care of us. I really think that giving up that 10% every single month is really proving to God like, hey, we trust that you have this and this is your money, God. So we actually have a separate savings account where we transfer money into every single month. And whenever something comes up where we feel like, God spoke to us and he said, you need to give to this or you need to help this person out. And there's just money there. And it's been such a blessing to us to be able to bless others with this and give God the glory. And as a result, he's always, always, always taking care of us. Jeremy and I truly believe that when we bless others, we are blessed in return and God always takes care of us. Okay, so in conclusion today, I want to remind you that thriving on one income is not about making all the sacrifices in the world. It's about making smart choices with the money that you have. It's about looking at what you already have and making the most of that money. It's about being intentional with your spending habits so that your money works for you, not the other way around. These 6 strategies that I shared with you today have helped my family to stick to a budget and slowly save money over time. And the best part of it is that it doesn't feel like these huge sacrifices. They're honestly just these simple shifts that anyone out there can make, whether you're living on one income or you just want to be smarter with your money. So if you're feeling discouraged about your finances, I hope that this episode really encouraged you because you can do this. Those small steps lead to big changes, and over time, those little savings start adding up in a really big way. If this episode encouraged you, I would love it if you could send it to a friend who might need some financial inspiration today. Sometimes just hearing that someone else is making it work can help give us the hope and the motivation to keep on going and keep pushing through. And don't forget, if you haven't already, go ahead and leave me a review. It helps so much, and I truly appreciate every single one of you who listens here and supports this podcast. I will see you next week. Before you go, if this podcast has encouraged or helped you in any way, the best way that you can show your support is by subscribing to the show and leaving a written 5-star review. Your words truly make my day and remind me why I love sharing here. You can also snap a screenshot of this episode and share it with a friend or post it to your Instagram stories. Make sure to tag me at Her Stable Home. Thanks so much for listening, friend. I will see you next time.